Howdy Spacers, and welcome back to Blank Space Dolls. For this tutorial, I wanted to create another cute custom for you to watch, and with spring hopefully arriving soon, I thought there was no better time than the present to put sweet floral vibes out into the universe to signal how ready I am for the spring season. With that being said, let's take a look at the inspiration for this project. As stated in previous videos, I was heavily inspired by J fashion and Lolita style fashion dresses and all of the cute accessories they use to complete their looks, cute stuffies, Carol Burnett and Cher in these baby doll costumes, as well as some runway inspiration using Gucci Cruise 2019, where they featured this curly hairstyle and this mix of mauve and sage green vintage florals, which caused me to fall in love with this color combination, and I just had to create something of my own. And before we get into the tutorial, be sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure to tap those notification bells so you don't miss any of my future projects. And now, without further ado, let's get started on this sweet vintage inspired custom. For this custom, I'll actually be going in with a Howleen wolf as my base doll, because as stated in a previous video, I do enjoy the little sister body type, but also I love her tan skin, as I wanted to give this character freckles, and I thought that they would stand out a lot more on that tan skin tone, and I will be cutting her ears off for this project as well. As usual, I'm going to go in with my thread scissors here and begin clipping off that factory hair in preparation for her reroot later. And I'm also going to take my X-Acto knife and cut those factory ears off, and then you can actually remove the hair inside of the head using those holes that you've now created from where the ears used to be. Once all of that is complete, you can go in with your 100% acetone and remove the factory paint from the face and scalp. For the reroot this time, I'm actually going to go in with this curly doll hair that I found in a light brown, and the brand is actually Marigold Market, which I found at a local craft store. Before beginning the reroot, I actually go in with an acrylic paint that matches the hair color that I chose, and then I loop the hair strand onto my rerooting tool and stab it into the head. And let me tell you guys, this curly hair was so satisfying and so soft and shiny that I couldn't help myself but keep playing with it, but learn from my mistakes. And I will tell you, don't pull on the curls too much because they will become frizzy, so I actually had to go back and remove some of the plugs and replug them because I had ruined the curl pattern. So yes, look but don't touch. And here's what the head looked like when it was fully rerooted, and I just love it so much. It was so bouncy. Then just wrap it up in your protective fabric so we can begin the face up. As I've stated before, the face up is one of my favorite parts in the customizing process because I love how each custom has a different expression based on the type of eyebrows you give them, or the shape of their eyebrows I should say, or the shapes of their eyes. It can really change the expression that the character is giving, and I wanted to keep with my cute theme and make her eyes a little bit bigger following the mold of the doll, and I do that using my Derwent watercolor pencil in dark brown just to get down the shapes that I want before going in and deepening those colors and adding color variation throughout the layers. And for the lip color on this custom, I decided to go in with my pink Derwent watercolor pencil just to give it a natural pink shade and just look like she's wearing like a natural or a cute lip gloss. And once I have those initial layers down on the eyes and the lips, I go in that same layer and begin the contouring and blushing. As I stated in a previous video, I don't go too heavy on the contouring on my sweet dolls because it adds a harshness that I don't really think goes with the characters. So I did more blushing than contouring, but I did still want to give her face a little bit more dimension, and I didn't want it to fall flat. And a good rule for blushing is to go in smaller strokes and not try to add it to too wide of a space, because it's easier to widen an area of blushing than it is to erase it away. So you'll see I start very small and kind of start in the center and then kind of fade it out using my fluffy detail brush. And then I just am of course going to add that blushing in the same areas, which is the center of the forehead, on the apples of the cheeks, right on the nose, and on the chin. And for the contouring, I'm mainly going to focus this brown color on the areas that would be a little bit more deeper set on a face. So focusing this mainly on the folds of the eyelids or right above the eyelids, and on the side bridges of the nose, and then right underneath the bottom lip, just to give the face a little bit more dimension. I don't go in too heavy with this because, as I said, sometimes contouring does give it a harshness that I don't really like to see on my happy or cute dolls. Then of course you go in and seal that with MSC, and this is what it looks like after I've layered up those colors one more time and sealed it. Layer 3 is where I go in and add the iris colored parts of her eyes. It's in the 4th layer that you can begin adding details into your face up, like smaller strokes in the iris parts of her eye, adding small hairs into the eyebrows, and again all the while just deepening those colors and making sure that the fade is the way that you want it. Also go back in with my pink Derwent watercolor pencil just to deepen the color of those lips just a little bit, and then I'll go in later with a deeper colored pencil just to add like a shadow on the inner parts of the lips just to make them look a little bit more three-dimensional. And of course, if your pet assistant doesn't approve, then you're not doing it correctly. I'm so sorry that he popped up in the video, but I had to add it anyways because he's adorable. And this is what she looks like after being sealed in layer 4. And now for some freckled fun. Sorry, I had to say that. What I'm gonna do is actually use one of my stiffer paint brushes, and I feel like I've seen this in YouTube tutorials before, and I've done this before on a previous doll that I did in video, but you're just going to want to take a stiffer brush than one that you would normally use and water down your acrylic paint and then slightly flick it on a scrap piece of paper first before flicking it onto the doll, and of course peeling off and protecting any areas you don't want to get paint on. And then I just go in with a dry Q-tip, and one of the sides is actually wet just to clean up some of the areas that it's a little bit too dark or it's too blotchy, because you will get areas where the paint comes off a little bit heavier. Then you let that acrylic paint dry completely before going in and continuing building the layers. I actually did go in that same layer without sealing it with MSC because I wanted to save a layer of Mr. Super Clear. I go in and start adding the details into the eyebrows, adding highlights into the inner corners of her eyes, adding white details really everywhere. This is kind of the layer I do that in, where I just go in and add where I want all the highlighted areas to be. And then just to make the freckles seem a little bit more natural, I do go back in with my blush color and just kind of go over that original acrylic paint, because what that's going to do is mute it down a little bit and make the blush look like it's placed over the freckles, so that way it actually looks like it's on her skin. And here's layer 5 after it's been sealed with MSC. And once layer 5 is dried, I go in with my white acrylic paint and draw in the eye shines with a little tiny heart, and then my normal circular eye shine that I do. And we can finally release her hair from that festive head wrap here. And I just take out all the pins very carefully, being careful not to squeeze the face because I don't want to crack it. And this is what the hair looks like, and I love seeing the hair with the face up. It just makes me so excited and so happy, and this is it once I've fixed the shape just a little bit. Then I add a little glitter to the eyes for some extra shine. Now moving on to the outfit. For this project, I went in with these materials, and I love this tulle layered skirt that was already basically done for me, and I thought it would make a perfect underskirt. And these two vintage printed, almost washed out cotton materials, and then of course a ribbon in matching color, and then also this embroidered lace trim just for a little added detail and texture to the dress, and this cute little stuffy which I thought was adorable, and it was perfect to Monster High doll scale. And for the underskirt, as stated previously, I'm going to use this 3-tiered tulle trim, oh my gosh, such a tongue twister, to create the underskirt, and I'm just measuring it against my template that I made in my previous video, and I'll make sure to leave that in the iCard somewhere so you can see how I made that. And I just add an elastic to the waistband area and then do a seam down the back and turn it inside out, and this is what you get. And for the top skirt, I'm actually going to measure it from the waistline all the way to the bottom portion of my template. Be sure to leave enough room for seam allowance, and I just hemmed the bottom edge of that, and I actually hand pleated the entire waistline of this. I was so proud. And for the top portion of the dress, I just made this simple tube top and used some darting at the chest line just to give it a better fit. I did decide to go in with that crochet lace as a belt, and here you'll see I've attached the top to the skirt portion of the dress. Then I go ahead and attach the crochet lace to the waist part of the dress as well, before sewing up a seam straight up the back. Then turning the dress inside out, this is what it looks like, and of course you leave that space in the back for the closures. And for the closures, we're actually going to go in with these tiny hook and eyes, which I have in both silver and black, but I'm going to be using silver for this project. I ended up using 2 hooks and 2 eyes on this project, and here you'll also see a half of a snap button, and in this next clip you'll see the second half of that, which is actually going to be a bow that will attach to the back of the dress, and I just wrapped that fabric around the center part of the bow. Before attaching the bow off camera, I did go ahead and add a little bit of that crochet lace around the top half of the dress just to give it an off the shoulder detail, and then I go ahead and attach that fancy bow that I just made, and it snaps on the back just like that. Jumping back up to the head, this is what the eyes look like after I added that Folkart glitter, and I'm just going to go ahead and seal those in with Liquitex high gloss varnish, and I put that on both the eyes and the lips just to give it a natural shine. I've stated this before, but I think every artist glosses a different portion of their eye. I personally gloss the colored part of my eye only because I find it doesn't hinder the photography that much and it doesn't bother me, but do whatever's most comfortable for you. This is just what works for me. And of course, 3D lashes are a must for all of my customs, and these are the ones that I used for this project. To complete this look, I wanted to create a bonnet headpiece for my custom, and I started by using this stiff cardboard material that I cut off of some doll packaging, and I actually covered that in fabric, and you'll see here I cut little slits just to make sure it covered it completely, and I wanted to use the same fabric material that I used on her dress. And this is what it looks like completed, and then I just attached those 2 pieces together and finished them off with some extra trinkets and bows. Here's what the bonnet looked like after it was complete, and I added all the extras to it, and I did actually use my fork bow method, and if you want to see how I did that, be sure to check out my previous tutorial where I show you how to make those. Of course, no sweet outfit would be complete without a pair of shoes to go with it, and so I used a stock pair of Mouscedes King shoes and cut all of the detail off, just leaving these soles, and embellished them with ribbons around the ankles and the foot, and bam! This is what they look like. I wanted to go with a simple shoe to not take away from the entire outfit. Although, looking back, I probably should have did a more exciting shoe, but what can you do? Let's move on to the final photos. And here she is. May I introduce you to Rosie May. She's actually one in a collection of 5 sisters, and please let me know in the comment section below if you would like to see the making of some of those sisters. And I also have a special treat coming up for you in the next video, and I can't wait to announce it because it's sure to be fatal. And as always, if you want to see teasers and behind the scene looks of some of my customs, or just to check out some of my other projects that I have going, be sure to check me out on Instagram @BlankSpaceDolls, where in my world there's always a blank space. Let's customize it together. Until next time, Spacers, see you soon.